Right, we're going to talk about identity. It's quite deep, isn't it? But trust me, the guest I've got to talk about this with is perfect because she just gets it. I'm going to read a bit from her about section on LinkedIn because she really knows how to put words together, and this describes her so well. So she introduces herself, as I will now. I'm Bee Higgins. I'm a creative copywriter, content writer, and messaging mindset mentor based in Somerset, UK. I help creatives and small business owners unearth their messaging magic with confident, heart-led copy and content. And she goes on to say, and I just love the way she puts this, combining soulful storytelling with purposeful prose. I'll work with you to write thoughtfully crafted words that position you as the go-to, foster deep connection, spark the imagination, soothe restless minds, and inspire action. These words just, they're just oozing from me. They're her words. She is just a fabulous guest. I've had her before and I will have her again. And you'll understand why if you keep listening to this episode where we talk about something that's tackled in one of the chapters in my book, The Mystery of the Squash Self. The chapter is called The Identity Incident, and it is just about this puzzling business when we get all hung up on who am I? And it puts us into a rather frozen state sometimes when we come to express ourselves. So, ready? Let's go. So here we are, Bee. This is not the first time you've been a guest, and there's a good reason for that. It's because you are a very, very lovely guest to have, because plowing into your brain and getting all those lovely little gems is just a delight. So let's do some more plowing.
You sound like my therapist. Yeah, I am back for a third time. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Likewise, I'm happy you're here. So we're going to have a little go at looking at something that I cover in The Mystery of the Squash Self. I think it's customary for me to hold the book up at that stage for those watching on video. And it's the chapter we're going to look at, although obviously this conversation could go all over the place, but we'll try and keep it to this idea of what I call the identity incident in the book, The Mystery of the Squash Self, because it's one that I think will apply to every human being out there, and hopefully the people listening to this podcast. So before we delve specifically into those thoughts, do you have a general story about noticing yourself being what I call squashed? In other words, self-squashing.
Is it a day ending and why? I've got so many. And you know what? I thought to myself, today let's bring a really recent one, because I think sometimes when we talk about, confidence issues that we've had, self-squashing, we sort of try and use the past tense and delve into the archives, lest we actually admit that these challenges are something that we're facing every single day or from time to time, however often these things sort of bother us. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided I'm going to host some free sort of co-writing guided journaling sessions so people can see what it's like to be in my group membership, which is a simple thing, right? But it was something I've been putting off for a good long while because obviously it felt very scary. My brain had gone, oh, let's not do that. But I am an interesting person in that in my brain I have my biggest cheerleader and my worst enemy. And I'm also buoyed by a stubbornness and a lifelong quest to sort of prove people wrong, including that self-squasher within. So I decided to just get started. So I sat down, I wrote a list of sort of fellow business owners who I cared about a great deal, who I had good relationships with, who I could send some personal invitations to. Now, that's easy enough, right? These are people that I speak to often, that I greatly admire. And what I found is, as I wrote down each name, I unconsciously attributed a reason as to why they may think the proposition was terrible, offensive, presumptuous. And it was ranging from, oh, I don't think I should bother them with this, to, oh, they'll think this is silly or superfluous, or what if they send a scathing reply that sees me take to my bed for half a year? You know, it was such a stunning piece of mind reading and catastrophic thinking. Now, as someone, I'm no stranger to rejection sensitivity, right? We've spoken about this before. I'm a writer who gets scared to write. You know, I'm used to it, but I'm also sick to the back teeth of it at times. I don't know if you've ever found that as well. So I decided to pull my big girl pants up and I just pressed send on the messages. And unsurprisingly, nobody sent me an absolutely horrendous reply. They thanked me for thinking of them. Some of them said, yes, please, and signed up there and then. Some of them just said, not really my bag, but I wish you well, or I'm busy, but hope it goes swimmingly. Nobody told me I was a terrible person with terrible ideas. Nobody listed all of my failures in chronological order from birth to now. No one was outraged at my audacity and demanded to know why I felt I was worthy of infiltrating their inbox. I did the scary thing. I sent the scary message and I lived to tell the tale.
Yes. And not only that, but I've signed up for it. So I was one of those people that didn't send you a scathing reply. So who do you think I am? I obviously am a really, really good writer. I mean, I've written a book. I mean, why would I want to be part of you? How very insulting of you.
I thought to myself, everybody is going to be like, why would you are awful? Like, do you not know? You poor thing. And it's just incredible how your brain can do that. And I was explaining this to clients recently. You know, I said some people sent voice notes as replies, and that was even worse for my brain because my brain went, oh, they've definitely decided to leave a voice note just to let you know how incensed they are. They thought, you know what, I'm not going to type this out. I'm going to speak this out to this lovely lady who's just sent me this message. For some reason, my brain was like, oh dear. So I didn't listen back for several days. I couldn't.
Oh, I am so glad you've said that. It is like you are literally, you do hang out in my brain, Bee. There's no question about it. I mean, we are, you know, we do have a little rented space, I think, in each other's heads because there isn't a single thing that you've just said that doesn't resonate. It was like bell, 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 bell. I mean, mind reading and catastrophic thinking is one of my top skills. I mean, I am so good at it, Bee. I can't, maybe even better than you, but I don't want to get competitive.
I'll fight you for it.
The thing you just said. Oh, come on, listeners. I'd love to know who else out there has done that weird thing of not listening to some kind of answer phone voicemail, or like you say, the directly voice thing on LinkedIn, because in your head, I've done even opening emails, all sorts of things. In your head, you are saying, I can't cope with this because it's definitely not going to be nice. Something about it is no, I'll just pretend it's not happening. I mean, I've even gone to the extent of people having to follow up saying, did you get my message? At which stage you feel obliged to, and you realize it was a really nice message saying, oh, I'm really keen to do this thing with you, blah, blah. Yeah.
These are some of the nicest people, and picturing them in my mind, it's comical to think that these people would, you know, send anything but really lovely wishes, which is madness. But it happens to us all, you know. It's like I said last time, I'm a writer, but writing is scary to me, you know, and that is okay. That's normal. Doesn't make me less of a writer.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's the thing, is this podcast is definitely not about, I mean, I sometimes try to sort of waffle on about some insights that and then possibly some things you might experiment with that might help. But I absolutely don't do sort of massive top tip stuff, because we're all different. And what is most important is what you're doing now, which is just informing everybody, all humans out there, that this is so human. And you're not going to cure it as such. All you can do is do exactly what you're doing to yourself, what I do to myself, and what we're doing through this podcast, which is let people know that this is actually remarkably normal. Something happened earlier, and I thought, oh yeah. No, somebody wrote an article on Medium, and I've been trying to get back to doing some writing. I don't know whether Medium's the right platform, but we can talk about that when I'm part of your thing, maybe. But somebody wrote this very personal topic, which totally applies to me. And I'm not even going to say on this podcast what it was about. But I thought, well, that's very brave, because I'm avoiding, I could say so much about this thing, and I know it will apply to it. But I've chosen not to, because it just goes too deep into something a little bit too traumatic. But I did thank her for just showing that this is a thing that other humans are going through, that they shouldn't feel that it's weird, or that there's something wrong with them and all that kind of stuff. It's cliche, but I just that is useful.
Yeah, that's human connection. And that's you setting a boundary there as well. Not all things need to be expressed in their entirety. That's something I speak to a lot of people about, because they worry about how much of themselves they need to express. And
that brings us on actually really nicely to this idea of identity, doesn't it? Because the reason I'm doing this, by the way, is because otherwise I could talk about this for another 3 hours. So I'm trying to be very professional now and bring this round to this idea of identity. So in a way, we are, like you just said, I'm a writer, and I have a massive problem, because I'm not even sure, that I could even put it in words what I am. I could say I'm old, which is quite useful. I'm old. I sometimes say I'm a climber, but I mean, I've only been climbing for 2.5 years. I could say I'm an actor, because I've spent decades doing professional acting work and performance and entertaining. I could say I'm a celebrant, because I actually helped deliver people's funerals and done that for 9 years. You've probably got the message here. I have what we call a portfolio career. And so this has always been quite a big issue for me, because when you are a do you describe yourself as a coach?
No. So I tend to say I'm a creative copywriter, content writer, and messaging mentor. But it's words.
Yeah, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because when I set up the communication and confidence coaching thing, I really struggled with the word coach, and I still do, and that's where we all start getting into little holes and start self-squashing and all the rest of it. So I mean, what does this come up with people that you are what did you just call yourself? Mentoring. Yeah
what this idea of who am I can I bring. People come to me, and everybody's multifaceted, right? And it's almost like we all worry about that. We're like, oh no, but I'm not one thing. And I think that comes from the whole idea around especially in the business sphere, it's niche down, be for this type of person, be super specific, get really, really deep. And I think that can sometimes get confused in our minds with only allow one part of yourself to show at one given time. And obviously that doesn't really work in the long term, because you are squashing all of the other bits out at the exact same time. And so a lot of people do come to me, and they worry, but I'm this thing, but I'm that thing, but I'm that. And I've experienced it myself. I've started out with a creative writing background. I started out as a blogger before Instagram was even a thing, or influencer was even a thing, and then I'm also proud disabled woman. There are loads of different facets to me, and I often go against the advice of what everybody else says to sort of really focus in on one tiny part of you, because I believe that's where so many of our issues with self-expression stem from, because we are inadvertently telling ourselves, okay, not that bit of me, not that bit of me, not that bit of me, just this little bit for now. But what happens when you sit down and the other part of you shows up? And you go, oh, well, no, I can't do any of it because that person's in the driving seat today. And they're not for this audience. This audience can't see that part of me. Good heavens, what will people think? So I see it all the time. And it's usually one of the biggest issues that people have around expressing themselves is because they are worried about being more than one thing. But I have to tell them that's what's making you human. That's what's making you human. And if we take that bit away, what are we?
I honestly think it was a massive, it set me, but I don't want to use excuses, but I think I got set back quite a few steps right from the word go of starting the coaching business. See, if you're on video, I'm putting everything in inverted commas. A psychiatrist would know this is because I don't want to be specific. It's a very definite urge not to be. But anyway, I had this advice. I've told this story loads of times, so I'll keep it brief. At a sort of peer group thing that I was thinking of joining, and I started talking about my things I'd done in the past, because this was the first time I'd done anything in the sort of business world as such, like you, more of a creative sort of, yeah. And somebody said, oh, but nobody wants to know, or nobody cares, I think was the exact expression. Well, I was talking about the acting and stuff. Nobody cares. And it really, I thought, oh, where do I go with this? Number one, it felt very hurtful. And because I was 65 odd when I set up the business, so I'd had a lot of life. And number two, it felt confusing, because I immediately thought, well, if I'm only going to say I'm a communication coach, then I've got to get some kind of coach qualification. I've got to somehow prove that and I thought, but everything I've done up to now has equipped me to do this. But you're sort of telling me that that's not relevant. So it plays so well into that imposter syndrome space, because you immediately, who am I thing? Well, I've got nothing to offer. You suddenly start thinking.
Yeah, I was born yesterday. I have no life experience. This is my first day on Earth. I'm experiencing it 1 hour to the next. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think obviously it's important to make sure we can be as clear and as specific as is helpful to help the right people kind of find us. But at the same time, I enjoy bringing all of the sort of facets of me to everything that I do, because ultimately all of that stuff is work. Every time I work with somebody, I'm bringing all of that with me, every single part of me, and sometimes it's helping me, sometimes it's hindering me, but it's all there regardless. So I think we need to sort of do away with this idea of like, I have to embody this one quality that I've been told is really good about me. And I have to make this my thing, like this is who I am. And I can't bring in that interest because who cares? And I can't talk about that experience because that wasn't in this exact role. I just don't think that sets you up for kind of the most authentic, aligned type of self-expression that makes you feel good, that attracts kindred spirits. So many of the connections and relationships I have formed with people have been born from maybe something not even directly related to what it is that I actually do, but from there, because we've shared that connection or they've enjoyed an insight that I've brought in from another part, we then move forward together because we've recognized that kinship in one another. And imagine if we just did away with that.
And you could apply this beautifully put, because you could apply that to relationships generally, couldn't you?
Yeah.
We can imagine. So if you set up a dating profile and you only talked about one particular aspect of who you were, or what you'd done, and all the rest of it, and then you met the person and said, "Well, I must only show this one particular aspect of what I've done and who I am and what I've done." I mean, that's not going to make for a brilliant long-term relationship, I sense. And yeah. I mean, but in a way, some people are sort of doing that, falling into that trap a bit with the whole kind of online dating world, I suspect. Put this face up, put this image up. Oh gosh, now I've got to keep this up in real life. You simply can't do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's the beautiful point in a relationship that's going to work? It's when things go wrong. It's when when you're feeling rubbish, when you talk about something from your past maybe that you hadn't shared before, and you connect, or just when you meet people. I don't know. I have this cafe relationship that started about 2 years ago. There was this it was a woman and sometimes a man and sometimes a grown-up kid there as well. And I made up, of course, an entire story about them. It was a place we went every Sunday, and we still do. And I decided that they were probably divorced, but they were staying friendly for the sake of the grown-up child. This is because they arrived at different times. It later transpired that this isn't the case at all. They're very happily married, and that it's just that she did something before coming, and they came in different cars. But I got this story, and we sort of began to smile a bit because we were both there at the same day for month after month. And then one day I was reading because Steve was away, and it was Simone de Beauvoir, Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter. I'm just showing off now. Anyway, I was reading this. And she looked, as I was sort of there, and she said, "I'm really interested in what you're reading." And for the first time, we started having this conversation. And from that moment, there were little more bits of conversation, and Steve was there. And then I discovered that they weren't actually divorced at all. And then we had coffee, and now we regularly have coffee and have discovered a host of things we've got in common. Although we're also two very different individuals, we have these little beautiful lines of connection. And I suppose the point of this story is not to show off that I was reading such a intellectual book, but more to say that I was just showing a bit of me. I didn't, and that was how the connection started.
And that's how assumptions can get made. And I think whenever we connect with somebody online, it's not as if we go, "Oh, I wish I knew less about them." When we connect with somebody, we search the web now. We can search the internet for other places that they've been to find out more about them. I've had people that have been like, "Oh, I checked you out and I thought you seemed nice, and then I listened to podcasts that you'd been on because I wanted to hear your voice. I wanted to hear more about you, just talking about other topics." It's not as if anybody is ever sort of going, "Okay, I've just found this person. Oh, I want to not know anything about them before working with them." It's always, "I want to know more. What are they like? What's their personality like?" Everything. I was saying this to a therapist client recently. She was worried about bringing in parts of her. And I said, well, for some people, maybe the types of people that you work with, they might be looking for that human connection. They might be trying to find overlap so that they can go, "I think I might feel safe with this person." Now, obviously, for other clients, they want to keep everything completely kind of separate. They want an anonymity. And I said to her, it's about you figuring out who your clients and the people that you'd love to work with are. So for some people, they want that connection. For other people, they don't. But we can bring in as many aspects as we want to, or feel comfortable to, or feels appropriate.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because certainly doing this writing that I've been trying to do over the last year, I've sort of done it in fits and starts, which again won't surprise anyone who knows me. Sort of obsessively doing it every day, and then I'm bored of this. But anyway, I sort of really had to think, well, where are those boundaries? And what you were just saying, do I want this bit to be more anonymous, or is that so the way I think that I'm dealing with it, although I still struggle sometimes, is to sort of not necessarily mention something in a specific way. So I sort of might refer to, I just told a story, for instance, and I mentioned my partner at the time. And in fact, I've been married more than once. It was a husband, not a partner. But I didn't use the word husband because I thought, no, nobody actually needs to know that. Of course, they do now. All those millions of people that are going to read my articles on Medium, I've now blown it wide open. But there we go. Or I might talk about, I don't know, just something to do with, I very rarely, for instance, mention my kids, grown-up kids, but I might mention things that I've clearly learnt through some experiences that have to do with that aspect of being a mum or whatever it is. And so I suppose there's this kind of little tightrope that I walk along a little bit. And there are days, talk about, we're being honest and saying, right now, right here, what's going on in your head. So there are days where I think, oh, I should just look, I've only got so many years left on planet Earth, for God's sake. Why am I pussyfooting around? What's the problem? What's the worst that can happen? Just, you've got some really good, sort of really edgy stories. Just go for it. You'd get thousands of views. Think of that headline that you could put up. Think of all the clickbaitiness of it all. And then I stop again, because I suppose ultimately you have to think, but what's the point of going there?
Your selfhood has to come first. And I think sometimes we can sort of, like you said, forget all of that when there's the allure of like, oh, but people might read this, and people, I might get lots of sympathy likes. I might get this, I might get that. Someone might ask me to do this if I share this story or whatever. And I think it is about protecting your own energy. Sometimes you might feel able to speak on things, but then you also need to keep in mind there might be days where I sort of think to myself, I sort of wish I hadn't said that. And I think some ways you can find that balance. I think it helps to have like a regular, whatever regular means, like writing practice, whether that's, writing in your notebook or whatever, having a place where you can get this stuff out, really follow that. Once you've found that flow, really go with it, see where it moves, write that stuff down, express all of that stuff, and then maybe come to it later. And if you could, I think it's an easy way to then go, okay, I could maybe talk about this, but I might leave that bit within these pages. That bit's for me.
Does that?
I might. Or maybe take a learning from it. Do you see what I mean? So
I do see what you mean.
Once you've got that practice, it can help.
And talking about practice, so you help people with sort of do what you call journaling, which I will learn more about, because I am going to take advantage of your lovely offer and join your group thing. So is that what journaling does? Are you sort of writing stuff that is more kind of from the heart, kind of blah blah blah, and then not necessarily that you're going to publish on any platform, but that is sort of just getting it out of you?
I think that's sort of the joy of having your own sort of creative practice. It can be whatever you want it to be. There doesn't necessarily have to be like this is my notebook for all of my private thoughts. This all goes in this one, If that, for some people, that helps to just have a place, where they know this needs to be seen by nobody. I mentioned last time I have a notebook for bad ideas, where I say to myself, there's going to be some terrible ideas within these pages, and that's okay. So for some people, a journaling or a writing practice, whatever that looks like to them, it might be about sort of life writing and really working through some things, as like a sort of therapeutic practice. For other people, journaling might be more sort of light-hearted, or it might be more sort of business focused. You can really chop and change, and you can really think about, what do I need in this moment from a creative practice? And that's going to look different during different seasons of your life. You might go through a phase where you think sitting with my journal is going to really help me sort of return to some moments that I'd like to sort of go back and prod and poke gently. And if I'm doing that within my notebook, as opposed to doing it via writing an article that may be seen by however many people, maybe I'm protecting my own peace at times. Maybe I'm allowing things to come through that in other settings maybe wouldn't, that can give me a bit of clarity, a little bit of healing, a little bit of peace, with some insight going forward, So it really is up to you. Everybody gets to choose how they embrace, embody, and experience their creativity. There are no rules.
No rules. There we go. That's a good place to almost end this on. Is there anything else on this identity stuff that you've got a burning desire to share before you come back for the umpteenth time to be my guest?
It's dangerous to ask, because we could do 10 hours plus. There are so many things that we could discuss. It's merely scratching the surface.
What about a little teeny insight?
So a key insight I'm finding recently, something I've really been musing on, is that to me, at the moment, I really feel that all good writing, all good business writing, whatever, is really grounded in creative self-expression that is being well nourished and nurtured. I don't think it is born from strict structures necessarily for a lot of people. It's not about gaming algorithms. It's not about clever little frameworks. I think our most potent and most powerful work really comes from, as I like to say, unearthing and expressing all of our unique magic. And I think that comes from appreciating everything that binds you together. Maybe it's cultural figureheads that have inspired you. It's unassuming actions that might motivate you. It's words that empower you, spaces that move you, mess that confounds you. All of that stuff, bring it all to the table. I think our creative confidence really does require us to trust in our creative intuition and top it up with good things, good people, good vibes, tasty morsels of inspiration. But with that, I would say it's not to bury your head in the sand, or you can only achieve true creative enlightenment if all is going well in your life. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more about making a conscious effort to feed your creativity wherever you can, however you can, in those small but significant, cheap and expensive ways. So that's going for a morning walk, maybe it's climbing, maybe it's listening to healing music, or venturing out to a new spot at the weekend, or maybe it's writing daily glimmers in a journal. I've been doing that every single day this year so far, writing 4 things that I've just really taken from the day. And this is going to make the list, spoiler alert. All of these things can add up and create creative foundations for curiosity and ideas and all manner of wonderful things to bloom. So focus on nourishing that creativity, bring all of you to it, because all of it is welcome.
See? All of your identities, everything, the lot. Yes. Oh my God, that is a perfect way to wrap this up. I will put all your contact stuff, obviously, in the, I think we call them show notes. Anyway, around wherever you find this, you will see Bee's contact details. Is there anything specific that you want to point people to?
No, you can find me on LinkedIn at Bee Higgins, or you can find me on Instagram at Bloom with Bee Copy. You can check out our 2 previous podcast chats as well. They're episodes 140 and 170. Look at me go. I'm such a pro.
You've done your homework. That is so impressive. Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a strange feeling this might not be the last time you are on this podcast.
I will beg you to have me back.
But maybe we'll just do a podcast together. I said,
Funnily enough, that's how we ended the last episode. We said to each other, "We'll do a joint podcast."
It's kind of just feels obvious. Yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Bee. I've learned, and myself, I've been inspired. I'm definitely feel nourished, very nourished. So thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and I think Bee did as well. And if you want to just have a little rummage around my website, it's trishalewis.com, Trisha Lewis.com. I have an identity issue as well with that name, but that's for a whole nother episode. Anyway, I talk about this business of self-squashing, and that's what I do in my TEDx talk, in my book, as I've mentioned, and all the links are there at that particular little spot, trishalewis.com. So, till the next time, stay unsquashed and curious.
Questions never change.